Hello, everyone. My name is Mona Fastvold, and I'm the director of The World to Come. And thank you so much for watching our film. Joining me today is Katherine Waterston, who plays Abigail, and Vanessa Kirby, who plays Tallie. And we have chosen the scene where Abigail and Tallie first kiss to sort of be the center of what we talk about. So I thought that one of the reasons why it's exciting to talk about this scene in particular is because throughout the film, Abigail and Tallie are constantly speaking in code and sort of circling each other. And one thing we worked on a lot was, when are we being understood, and when are we not being understood, and when are we speaking in code, and when are we direct. So I thought it was interesting to ask Katherine about that, in this scene in particular, and sort of how you decided to approach this moment. Because what was very fun was that prior to shooting this scene, we had rehearsed it quite a bit in a different space from where we were shooting. And then we came to location, and we had a little bit of rehearsal time the day prior to shooting it. And Katherine and Vanessa had a very specific idea of, like, okay, this is what we think we should do. I think we cracked the code on this. And so I would love for you guys to talk about your process prior to working with me.
You know, it's so funny because all of this stuff ends up morphing so much over time. And, you know, what happened on the day kind of starts to morph and blur over time. What I remember of that day was all the doors open in the house, and the feeling, how much energy that brought into the house, even before Vanessa walked in the room. You know, just this feeling that the seasons were changing, that there was this energy in this stagnant space for the first time. And also I remember, and I speak about this all the time, but you know, my performance lives and dies on whether my partner has anything to give me, you know. And if I can just create some kind of inner calm where I might be able to notice and hear and appreciate what this other person is bringing to the scene, I don't feel like I have to do anything. And in a way, that feeling of not having to do anything is what I'm always chasing as an actor, because it's like the greatest high you'll ever feel, I think. To be so free in this imagined world. And so that day, I remember just noticing, without a doubt, this woman had walked into my house in a new way. And she was looking at me in a new way. And I couldn't, she wasn't letting me ignore it. I couldn't ignore it. And it was so powerful. And what's so fascinating about a really good actor is that I was standing and she was seated. So the force should have been with me, right? But this person would sit with this power like a king, you know, like I don't have to stand to show how powerful I am. You know what I mean? I'm the king. That's what it was, like, overwhelmed with that energy. And it was so exciting.
But also I had broken my foot, so there was also that. We had to sort of embrace the fact that Tallie would do a lot of sitting in the film, which actually turn out, it's the funny things that happen on a film sometimes. Like the things sometimes you go like, oh, this is terrible, this I'm not going to be free, and she's meant to be the freest person in her body and the space, and she needs to come in and like command the energy. And I, for the most part, I couldn't like walk across the space fast at all. I sort of would like hobble. So I ended up sitting in that chair in that room a lot. But I do remember, it's so interesting. It's amazing having these conversations because you really get to hear the other person's side of it. But I just remember thinking, why is it today that Tallie makes this decision to come in and she's going to kiss her today, you know? And it suddenly dawned on me, like, I don't think it just happens in a moment out of the blue, almost unexpected to Tallie. She's almost too what's the right word? Too sure of things, you know, too kind of, I think too visceral a feeling person, you know. I think she woke up that morning with a feeling and thought, I have to do it today. And there's a kind of, it was always I felt like a fatalism around her to, I think she was aware that time, like, she didn't have long somehow. And I just remember thinking, I think that's how the scene needs to be. I think Tallie needs to come in knowing what she's going to do. And all she has to do is let Abigail know in one way or another that that's what's going to happen. You know? And actually, so that was such a beautiful thing to play, because here was Katherine being so beautiful and like shy with me, and you know, was playing this remarkable performance of playing someone who didn't really know how to be looked at, you know. So it was such a wonderful thing to play, because I knew I'd come in, I sit down, and all I had to do was just look at her, and she would somehow know if I just kept with her, you know. There was like nothing else going on in that room other than just knowing that I needed to let her know that I was going to kiss her, and it was going to be soon. And so it was quite a simple intention, really, and simple motivations and scenes are always sometimes the easiest
that makes
thing,
it
like the
fun.
most thing.
Yeah, when you have you have one thing that you're working on achieving, and that's what you're working on. And I think I was very happy that you had to be still. I thought that was wonderful for a lot of these scenes, because you wanted to move, but you were just always locked to one position, and they actually gave your character a sense of sort of power and also making yourself comfortable in Abigail's home. And then I loved seeing Abigail move around in your space, not knowing what to do with this person who planted herself in your home. It was a different dynamic than what we maybe would have gone for had you not, you know, had you been able to walk. So
literally a happy accident.
Yeah.
But also I was thinking, Mona, just about what you started with, the quality of the script and these coded language, and what we had to decipher, and how in scenes like this one, the language moves in and out of very direct language, and the more coded language that sometimes in earlier scenes we see, like kind of whole scenes play out in code. Here the scene begins, she says, I decided today I never want to be away from you. Which is so direct, right? And then we go into this exchange about our imagined lives, which is somewhat coded, right? Like, I have these dreams, you have these dreams, yes, I imagine doing something, and I say it's something special, and I say, I think, we could have that, I think we have that, or we could have it, right? So we're like teetering on the edge of somewhere between something coded and something, dare we be a little bit more direct. And then when the physical comes into play, it's like all of that code just crumbles, right? And it was so exciting that to play. Like, why didn't you just do what you were tempted to do, I think is what I say. Suddenly we're just saying, why didn't you kiss me just then? You know, these two people who've been doing this dance the whole film of getting to know each other and trying to figure out what they feel and what the other feels for them, and trying to understand for ourselves what we're feeling inside. And then suddenly are just like kind of like two teenagers, you know, falling in love. And to sort of ride those waves that like were built on the page is just so exciting.
Yeah, and it was cathartic to shoot it, I think, as well for us, after having been like dancing around this for such a long time and while shooting it as well, and then to literally throw up all the windows and all the doors and let all the light in, and it's the first scene of true spring, and then shoot this scene was just like it was deeply satisfying. And then my favorite little improvisation in the movie, I think, is Katherine bending down after the kiss to find Vanessa's eyes, because you're a little bit taller, and you kiss her, and you guys kiss, and then you bend down to really to be, you know, to look into her eyes and to really see her. And there was something about that I thought was just broke my heart for the connection that these two women had, and the connection that you two have, where you're checking in and you're looking, you want to see her. It's not about, you know, it's about the lust and like all those fun things too, but it's also really about, like, you know,
that moment there is like finding love, finding the awe of it, the joy, the like unadulterated joy of finding love, you know, having it requited. It's like, well, you know, we know what it's like.
Yeah.
Glorious thing.
Which is, you know, whenever, you know, we've gotten to speak about this film, it really is something that I think all of us very much connected with, was that this is this love story, and we want to give these very ordinary women a beautiful, sweeping, exciting, lovely love story, you know, to celebrate their journey and bravery, and, you know, all those women who dare to have these amazing, secret, wonderful, you know, moments together.
You know, sometimes you pull your hair out all day on set and eventually get to something you feel proud of, and some days the wind is just at your back, right? That day, like, I just remember such a flow, you know, it just felt like, and it's not just the three of us, right? You know, it's the whole crew, it's the energy on set, it's this, the sum of all these parts that just do make some days just, what is it? I guess a little extra liberating or something, and you just feel safe and free to play and try things and explore things, and you trust your partner, and, you know, can really just find out where you need to go, you know, with no preconceived notion. Let's just find it together while the camera's rolling. And it's just the best feeling. I mean, I'm feeling this feeling, I want to call it homesickness for acting. Like, I'm just missing that as we talk about it.
Yeah. No, I think there's when you get a scene to a really good place, and we would have these very long, very, very long scenes with the two of you, that was, you know, 7-8 pages long of text, of difficult text, of period text, and a lot of that was also finding the movement, and like finding sort of the ballet of it together with our DP as well, and seeing like how can we move together, and then kind of going in and out of the you know, finding the intent of those scenes. That I think was a big challenge, also with the very tough time constraints that we had on this film. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Vanessa? What that was like for you?
The time limit.
Yeah, like trying to crack the code on 8 pages, and knowing you had just half a day to do so.
Yes. Also because we were shooting on film, so we had a limited amount of film too. Yeah. And so there was always a feeling of but sometimes that can make you I guess that you have to literally, there's an immediacy to that, isn't there? Because you go, we don't have an option, we might have one take. like let's just try and get it. And I think sometimes you almost just, you have to put your best foot forward as much as you can, or not, and then be okay with it. I do think the thing that helped us most, to be honest, was, Mona, your decision to really build the houses in that kind of landscape, because it really was, you know, with my broken ankles in a wheelbarrow, having to get into some scenes and be wheelbarrowed up by the crew, you know. And so there was a real ruggedness to the whole group and the whole terrain, and that, I think, like, sometimes when my ankle was better, I had to do a long walk from down the hill to the house that was, you know, Abigail's house, and I just remember thinking, God, this would be the final little stretch of maybe a 2-hour journey or whatever it was to walk to someone that you wanted to spend time with, like that you had these snatched moments with. And those moments, like, we knew in the film that we had to have these moments of just extraordinariness in these people's lives. It might be the most they've ever felt, or the most alive they've felt, or the most almost like from a dream, really. And that they weren't mostly ever given permission to be able to feel like that. And so I guess this scene, we wanted to try and like somehow capture that magic, you know, that like really sacred moment where suddenly you just feel like, oh, this is something that makes me so happy, and I can choose to act on it in this moment, come what may, you know. And I think that beautiful line Tallie has about, like, I dream of this day when women can be received at home with what is it, cheers and shouts of joy or whatever. Like, you know, she imagines a world in which she can choose what makes her happy. And it felt like that on the day, didn't it? It felt like, okay, we just have to try and somehow harness that feeling of feeling so alive in someone else's company, and letting them know that for the first time, which with all its vulnerability. And I think the one thing I remember is I felt like a teenager. And that was quite surprising to me, because Tallie sort of feels so like the more adult one in their relationship, and more assured, and suddenly as her I felt about 13, 14.
That's also what's so brilliant about the structure of the scene, is that, you know, she tries to kiss me, but ultimately I kiss her. Do you know that there's this, you know, she's the life force. She gives me life, right? And then I have life. Then I have something to give. And that exchange, that kind of energetic exchange, you know, that like brings again and again throughout the film, like brings life back to this person who is really kind of holding on by a thread at the beginning of the film, you know, like that kind of love as resuscitation, you know, was really felt, I think, in that scene. And I keep thinking about the beautiful line in the letter you write, you know, and that you beautifully recite late in the film, which is the way you looked at me when you knew that you were loved. You know, this is like really beautiful. I mean, look, it's the script, right? We keep coming back to these lines that just, I feel like all three of us, our job was to just bring get to bring life and energy to this language. It was such a constant on set to do it justice, right? I mean, quite terrifying when it's
yeah. No, I think also, and that was the challenging, you know, the challenging part of it as well, was to really to have this text that's very beautiful, but it's lyrical, and so we constantly had to go back into what are we really saying, and go back into just you guys saying the text in a modern way to one another, and then going back into the into the text that we as it was, and kind of returning to that. I remember I was very happy that I could, like, you know, beg, steal, and borrow to have 2 cameras on that day, you know, which was a luxury we didn't have a lot, for a long scene. But I was so happy because I'm using mostly just the first take of that particular scene.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that, which is so nice because it's like the first time, you know, the first time for the characters and for us.
Yeah, and the first sort of intimate moment, like really truly physically intimate moment for the 2 of you as well. So all the shyness and the blushing and everything, just I got to capture all of that. All right, well, I think that's all the time we have. So thank you so much for talking to me about the film, and I hope everyone enjoys it.